Masonic Lite podcast. This is Past Master Moyer calling with my critique on episode 74. Really can't say anything negative about the entire episode other than Pete. It's Michael Karpovage. Say that 3 times real fast. Kind of made an idiot out of yourself. So anyway, I was thinking, well, I normally pick on Larry. Really nothing on this episode to pick on, but I thought I'd bring up, this morning I was at the Goose and Gridiron breakfast. It is almost the end of June, so at this time Larry Maris has moved in to his new house, and I know he's still unpacking boxes, but the last 3 Thursdays, he always shows up last. He looks like the Weebles Wobbles, but they don't fall down when he's walking in the doorway. But for the last 3 Thursdays, he's had one of these T-shirts on where the neck, you know, it's so old, the neck, there is no neck anymore. There's armpit stains, and then he's got wet marks underneath the man boobs. And then he comes in and he tries to be real coy with the waitress and make silly talk with her, which is not working, Larry. So get some new T-shirts, get them starched, show up on time, and stop trying to be cutesy with the waitress on Thursday mornings. The T-shirts got to go, or we're just going to ban you from coming into breakfast. Also, I need to get caught up. I have 3 more episodes, 75, 76, and 77. After this morning's breakfast, I need to get to 77. You guys trashed my character by changing my voice, whatever, and I've been in contact with my attorney, and happy days are soon coming here again because I'm going to get a lot of money from Masonic Lite podcast. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.
From the new recording lair located deep beneath the Wine and Spirit store in Ephrata, Pennsylvania.
You're listening to the Masonic Lite podcast.
Studio 665 presents Masonic Lite podcast. This show is recorded by Masons, for Masons, and is for entertainment purposes only. And please, no wagering.
This podcast is not endorsed by any Grand Lodge, and the ridiculous ramblings of the hosts are their own. And now, here's your host.
Good day, everybody. It's Masonic Lite Podcast, episode 78.
Day to you all.
78.
It's brought to you by Bacon Neck T-shirts and Larry Maris. Hey, everybody. Our special guest tonight is going to be Teddy Theodore Wallace from, well, you're not Ephrata. What is your home lodge?
New London 545.
New London 545 in southern Chester County, Pennsylvania. And anyway, so Teddy, what we kind of do, so if everybody with a name like Teddy, he's an expert on Teddy Roosevelt. He just couldn't help himself. So, but Teddy, what we're going to do is we go around, we just do a big quick recap of what we have been up to the past couple weeks, and then we'll come back and we're going to let Larry interview you. And then when he screws up, Jack usually takes over. So, Larry, what have you been up to the past 2 weeks?
The grotto picnic at Dave Steffi's farm, which incidentally was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And I'm going to give a shout out to Steffi because I think he's been doing this for a number of years.
Yes.
And I've had the best chicken wings I think I've had in about 25 years. I had the best sausage, the best cigars, the best beer, and the best fun with a bunch of guys. And it was a spectacular Saturday. It really was. So I'm going to give a shout out to Grotto. Again, Monarch Jack for staging and doing one terrific job this year.
The only thing I had to do with this picnic was the horseshoes.
That's okay. That worked.
And they were spectacular.
Yes.
So that's the only thing I've been involved in. Sorry.
Josh, what have you been up to? Anything?
I went to the Tall Cedars picnic at your house. And that's about it.
That's right. I forgot I was there too.
Oh, yeah, Larry was there.
And the dogs didn't hurt either of you, right?
No, absolutely not. No.
They were looking for me, though.
They were excited about you and Chris Gibson, and they missed you both. Jack, I don't know how much masonry's involved. I guess there actually was in Germany, but you've been missing in action. So can you recap our listeners where you've been since you were last in studio with us?
I was trying to look at my calendar to see when the last time I was actually physically here, and I think I missed 2 recordings. I'm not sure, but yeah, I had a business trip to Germany. We had a trade show in Hanover, and we stayed in a house about 30 minutes outside of the town. And whenever I travel, especially internationally, I always go on the interwebs and find out where there's a recognized lodge in the area. And there happened to be one that was an English-speaking lodge. It was actually an English-speaking Grand Lodge under the jurisdiction of the Grand Lodge of Germany. It's a throwback to the division of Germany after World War II, and there were a lot of English service people in the area, so they formed their own sort of mini Grand Lodge and got recognition from the Grand Lodge of Germany. So it was all in English. It was really cool. I went just hoping to get a meeting in, and it was their what we call amateur night here, where all the officers were in their new chairs for the first time. So the worshipful master ran them through all 3 openings and closings, because they're all 3 different over there for the different degrees. So I went for one meeting, and I ended up with 4. And a festive board afterward, which was very cool. Lots of fun, lots of booze and food, because apparently there are adults there and they're allowed to have alcohol with dinner, so that's a cool thing. But it was a really neat old building. It was built in the early 1800s. It's an old half-timbered structure. There's a canal running alongside of it. It just beautiful, typical old German sort of feel to it, and it was a lot of fun, and the guys treated me great. So thank you to the members of Saxony Lodge. If you hear this, I appreciate you. And if you ever, for whatever reason, happen to be in Pennsylvania, look us up. We're happy to have you. And other than that, we had Grotto, the picnic, and trying to think if there was anything else that really came up. But no, Steffi did a great job. He always does a good job. The chicken wings were so good, we actually ate most of them before the sauce came out.
Yeah.
So we're putting chicken wing sauce on everything but the chicken wings, because the chicken wings are already gone, but they were good. So yeah, I've missed this. I did some mentoring last night with a couple of candidates that are coming through the line, and other than that, it's just being me.
For any Grotto listeners, Ubar Grotto listeners, by the way, I left my hat over to Steffi Farm. I did get a hold of Dave, and he said I wasn't there. So it was a straw hat with rainbow-colored headband. If anybody
we
sees
remember
it.
the hat.
Yeah,
You remember that?
you look like Colonel Kurtz at the end of Apocalypse Now when you came rolling in with your. I just kept thinking the deeper that we get upstream in Elizabethtown, the crazier things are getting, like Heart of Darkness, and it's pretty disturbing.
So I left my hat, and Dave said he didn't see it, so somebody must have picked it up to give it to me.
Maybe the one we all defecated in before we left. I don't know for sure. But.
Tim, what have you been up to?
Well, I survived the trip to Williamsport. Had a great time. We had intended to have our last episode from there, and because of we'll call it technical difficulties.
Yes, blood alcohol limit beyond our control.
There you go. We were overserved.
We were definitely overserved, and so it would not have been a good show.
Right, it would not have been. Which, speaking of alcohol, back to Jack's point, most Grand Lodges outside of the United States allow alcohol, and so that's something not unusual when you go abroad to a lodge meeting, is to have a festive board or something with alcohol before and or after. So
maybe someday.
But we had fun. We mentioned it on the show, but
yeah.
The brothers up in Williamsport were very hospitable.
Absolutely.
And I really don't think we paid for a drink. I think
they would not take our money.
Yeah. I mean, granted, like a Crown Royal on the
That's
Rocks.
pretty rare in Williamsport.
A Crown Royal on the Rocks was like $1.75. It's
Right.
not like they really went out of their way, but
Right.
no.
So the other thing, again, you all have mentioned the Grotto Picnic, which was outstanding. Jack initiated the Hillbilly Horseshoes, which were a big hit. And what he didn't tell you was that although he avoided the dogs at Pete's house, he did not avoid the dogs at Steffi's ranch. They came out and greeted him, and Jack turned a whiter shade of pale.
Yeah, I think it was.
He did not like my sunglasses. I'm just going to put
It was supposed to be a German Shepherd, but it was more like a dire wolf. This was like a 200-pound German Shepherd.
It was bigger. It was wider across than me.
But we had a great time, and if it was an open meeting, we had some new folks coming in and got to install. What did we do?
He was obligated.
Obligated. Thank you. We obligated a new person, and with the potential of another guy.
We were graced by our armed security guard, J.P. March, who showed up. He didn't take the obligation.
Had him on both hips.
But he did wander. He wandered outside so he could not hear our secret work, and then he wandered back in.
Yeah, but a great time was had by him.
Yeah. Teddy, so you're into, just like us, you're into everything Masonic and all kinds of weird places. What have you been up to? Anything Masonic?
A little bit. Of course, last Monday night, not just this past, but we had our past masters night at the lodge. So of course, like most lodges, we honor our past masters, both living and passed through the West Gate. And then had the John Gay banquet because I'm part of the Chester County Consistory Club, past president. Notice I emphasized the word past. And so we had that last Thursday, and I've been doing the Hots Gratis. I'm finally on level 2. And so we're working slowly on that. Other than that, personally, did the Pennsylvania State Trap Shoot in Ellisburg 2 Saturdays ago. Matter of fact, I think it's when you had your picnic. But so I was kind of tied up. Didn't shoot very well, but had a good time.
So they have internet in Oxford now?
No, actually, I have DSL, so we don't have the internets. Al Gore hasn't been to my house yet, so we have my cell phone's faster than my my regular connection.
Wow, yeah, I remember that when I lived in the city, and I could only get Lancaster. I could only get DSL. What have I been up to? Tall Cedar picnic at my house. The grotto trip up to Williamsport. We had a council meeting the other night, which was it was really nice. I got some nice feedback. I am admittedly not an expert in the York Rite. I was asked, and I stepped up and I jumped in line, and it makes me feel really awkward that I feel like I don't know enough. So what I did was, we kind of like went through the whole Select Master Mason degree and kind of explained it and discussed it. Little Q&A of like, hey, why is this our special knock? Because it refers back into the story of this part. And, why do we give this sign? Well, that refers to this part of the degree because it's never really explained to you well.
Chapter is doing the same thing. Yeah. We're limiting the number of nights we have degree work, and then we're going to break them down, and so that's a great thing.
Yeah. So we got some. Hey, Larry.
You want to join us here?
Stop watching adult videos.
These kids and their phones.
No. I recorded us at the table talking, and I tried to get it on Facebook, and it didn't work out real well.
So, Larry, no more multitasking.
Yeah.
Facebook
no more
Live, Larry.
No more fake book.
Right. You stumbled into a meeting with the Grand Master.
Yeah. I just said hi. Well, no, I just said hi briefly. The Grand Master the Right Worshipful Grand Master was in the Valley of Harrisburg for a brother whose mother had recently passed. So John Cook let me know that was the reason he was there, is for a funeral, so I did not harass anyone. Larry, so you should take these tips from me. Just look at these social cues. This was not an occasion to stick a microphone in anybody's face, and we just, acted mature about it. And
you didn't ask for your dues card, so.
Yeah, it's very nice.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're going to take a quick break, and we are going to come back, and we're going to talk to Brother Ted Wallace about his favorite president, Brother Teddy Roosevelt.
Why choose George J. Grove & Sons for your next home improvement project? At George J. Grove & Sons, we've built our reputation on quality and trust for more than 50 years. From planning to materials to installation, George J. Grove promises a home improvement experience second to none. Whether your goal is reducing energy costs, decreasing maintenance, updating curb appeal, or simply increasing the value of your home, the George J. Grove team will recommend and provide solutions that stand the test of time. Call 717-393-0859 for an estimate or visit us at georgejgrove.com. Welcome back. Tonight, our special guest is the 26th President of the United States, Teddy Roosevelt. And it's an honor to have you here, sir, because we think you were a great Republican, a good president, a very good president, I think an outstanding commissioner of the police department in New York City. So welcome, sir.
Well, thank you very much, but I was more of a progressive than I was a Republican.
But back then, progressives, Republicans had to be progressive because Democrats were yellow dog, crazy, you know what I mean. Okay, go ahead.
So things haven't changed.
Yes, they haven't changed, right. I guess.
well, let me put it to you this way. I wrote a speech way back when, and it goes like this. We should insist that if an immigrant who comes here does so in good faith, and does indeed become an American and assimilate himself to us, he shall be treated on the exact equality with everyone else, for it is an outrage to discriminate against any such man because of creed, birthplace, or origin. But this is predicated upon the man becoming, in very fact, an American and nothing but an American. If he tries to keep segregated with men of his own origin and separate from the rest of America, then he isn't doing his part as an American. There can be no divided allegiance here. We have room for but one language here, and that is the English language. For we intend to see that the crucible turn out our people as Americans of American nationality, and not as dwellers of the polyglot boarding house. And we have room for one sole loyalty, and that is the loyalty to the American people.
Well, he brought that New York stuff with a polyglot boarding house. He really took New York seriously, didn't he?
So President Roosevelt, I'm pretty sure every president after you just ignored that.
No, they all said it and then ignored it.
Okay. So
Yeah, one of the things that I find interesting in this fact that, and we really want to kind of dwell on that tonight, is you were a very active Master Mason. What lodge were you raised in?
November of 1900 in Matinacock Lodge at Oyster Bay, New York.
Oyster Bay. Cool. And did you go through any chairs, or tell me about your Masonic experience?
Most of my Masonic experience is just visiting other lodges and being fairly active. I didn't go through any of the chairs. I just didn't have time. I was Vice President of the United States when I was entered.
Oh, okay. And did you become a Master Mason while you were still Vice President?
January 1st of 2001 is when I got my...
2001?
Wow. 2001.
he is schizophrenic.
Wow.
Told you
It's that time machine again.
I can't read my own writing. 1901, March 4th of 1901, 3 weeks after being inaugurated as vice president is when I took my examination. Similar to some of the other states, they do a catechism. So, And then April 4th of 1901 is when I got that catechism. So it was a little bit later, and I was already vice president before I was master mate. I was vice president when I was raised to the sublime degree.
You said Oyster Bay. Weren't the other Roosevelts from the Oyster Bay area as well?
We were from New York. That's the best answer I can give you.
Well, you did get along with the other Roosevelt, correct?
Didn't have much dealings with my
Cousins or something
cousin.
like that? Yeah, cousin, yeah.
Your cousin Eleanor, right?
Well, both Eleanor and
Franklin.
FDR were
Right.
both cousins.
Yeah, you could marry your cousin.
There you
back
go.
then.
Back then, yeah. You still do that in some parts.
It's kind of like President Stoltzfus here in Lancaster.
Yeah.
So give us some more detail on your Masonic experience.
Well, I can go through with some of when I was raised and some of the people that were there. That I do have.
Okay.
April 4th of 1901, we had Right Worshipful Edward M.L. Ellers, the Grand Secretary, and Right Worshipful Frank B. Hoff, the District Deputy Grand Master of the 1st District. Right Worshipful Theodore A. Taylor, the Grand Treasurer. Most Worshipful John Stewart, Past Grand Master. Most Worshipful William A. Brody, Past Grand Master. Most Worshipful John W. Vrooman, Past Grand Master. And the Most Worshipful Grand Master of New York, Charles W. Meade. Right Worshipful George R. Van de Water.
Nothing but professional here.
I noticed that. De Water, he was the Grand Chaplain, and Most Worshipful Wright D. Ponnell, Past Grand Master. All the Grand Line officers, the Grand Masters of Connecticut, and 7 other Past Grand Masters in attendance. And when I was entered, there were over 500 Master Masons in attendance.
Is that
for
right?
that affair.
And they were all there for when he was raised.
Yes. Matter of fact, the stairwell leading up to the lodge room was so packed with people that they literally had to hoist my very stout body up over their heads to get me into the lodge room.
Were you that important?
He was Vice President of the United States.
Oh, Vice President, but come on.
Wait a minute. Does this thing work?
I mean, you think vice presidents are just disposable, but you were vice president for like a week and a half before you got promoted?
He was literally a heartbeat away from the presidency.
Right.
That I was. When McKinley was shot, I was in New York over in Buffalo, and they had notified me and brought me in on a train. And before I even got out of the state of New York, they advised me and swore me in as president. The 26th youngest president of the United States to this day.
Wow, and you accomplished quite a lot in your time there. National parks, it's probably what you're most well known for.
Yeah, actually, the thing I'm most known for is the teddy bear, which ended up being part of it was the symbol or the mascot for my re-election bid when I did the first re-election, before the Bull Moose Party.
That was Larry's first year in voting, right?
And it's weird because I kind of would have expected a president from New York to sound slightly different than you. But I do think I've got some members of my lodge that maybe were at your inauguration. So I'd have to ask them.
What's got the better chance of getting a...
Back to speaking English, right?
So we have to get back in our Wayback Machine times for 1 second here and channel Mr. Wallace. So Teddy, when did you become interested in Teddy Roosevelt? When did you start? Because you're kind of losing it on the audio here, but Ted does an amazing reenactment, full dress. He'll show up in your lodge and do a great talk on Teddy Roosevelt. So when did you first become?
Believe it or not, it wasn't till about 8 or 9 years ago when people go, "You look familiar to me," and I'm like, "What are you talking about? I've never met you before in my life." And they're like, "I know you look like somebody." And they said, "Teddy Roosevelt, you look just like Teddy Roosevelt." And when I let my mustache grow out a little bit and let the hair grow, because it's summertime, I shorten it up a little bit. They're like, "Yep, you're Teddy Roosevelt. So I actually, when I retired from my original job, I actually went out and spent the money, bought an actual Spanish American War outfit, his Rough Rider outfit, did the whole 9 yards.
The green coats.
Found a hat. Now, a little while ago, you flipped the hat up a little bit. Do you know why they flipped their hat up like that?
Oh, no. To get better reception?
No, it was it was actually so the rifle didn't knock their hat off.
Oh, okay.
That's why it was folded up on one side, so when they carried the rifle, it didn't knock it off. But since Teddy was a Navy guy, kind of familiar. I was a Navy guy too. But when he went into battle, everyone says, "Why did you carry your sword?" And it was a beautiful sword because it actually had shark skin as a handle. Well, he never carried it because he said, "I keep tripping over the damn thing." So it's kind of like being the pursuivant in the lodge, you know. How many times you see them when they walk out to close the outer door, they trip over their sword?
Every time. So how many times have you given a talk as Teddy?
Probably about a dozen or so far. I mean, I tell people that I can do it, but oh yeah, I'll get you in, and then by the time that actually comes around, either they get somebody else or because I have to know about 3 months ahead of time so I can get off of work. I did do I am certified by the Grand Lodge. I am one of the certified speakers, so that information is available there.
Very cool. So if anybody here wants to have President Teddy Roosevelt at their lodge, you could reach out to Brother Ted.
Yeah, he could, through the website, through the Masonic Lite podcast website, we can put you in touch with Ted, and we'll post a picture of him also. So
in full regalia.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about President Roosevelt and some of your kind of your favorite things.
Well, as I mentioned before, the teddy bear was one of his the thing he was known most for. But by the way, he hated to be called Teddy. When he was younger, he was called Teedy. Teedy, and his father used to call him that. And the only one that he actually would not gristle or make a big fuss about that was his first wife, and that was Alice. And that's one thing that, if you look back in his life, he had a pretty hard life for a while. His mother and his wife died on February 14th, the same day, 6 hours apart, in the same house. So, of course, he run off right after the little Alice was born. And then he come back and married his childhood sweetheart. So then they had 5 other kids together. Teddy was also known, TR is what he liked to be called. So TR liked to go swimming. He was very active in the outdoors, and that's because he was a sickly child when he was younger. So, but he liked the skinny dip in the Potomac, and I don't know if you've been by the Potomac River, but he's a brave man. Mm-hmm. The teddy bear, that all started when he went on an excursion. And everybody was like, "Oh yeah, President Roosevelt." So he told his guide that he wanted to kill a bear the first day because he had other things to do. Well, that didn't happen. So the next day they finally found and cornered a bear, and of course they used dogs and all that stuff. And they cornered this bear in a swamp. Well, the bear started to kill the guide's dog, so the guide went over and whacked it over the head with his butt of his rifle. And when TR finally got there, of course, he comes across a horrific scene that Pete would, he'd just lose his mind. There were dead dogs and all kinds of things laying all over the place, and a bloody, sick, looked like a drugged out bear tied to a tree. They tied it to a tree, waiting on the president. So he gets there and he's like, "I'm not shooting that." So then there was a cartoon drawn and driven by Clifford K. Berryman, and that was November 17th, and that was done in the Washington Post. And this cartoon had Teddy in full, or TR in his full regalia, and refusing to shoot the bear. Well, a lot of people took this as a double entendre, as he, it was a drawing of the line, and the name of the cartoon was Drawing the Line in Mississippi, which was partially that it was his sportsman code that he didn't want to shoot a bear like that, and secondly that it had to do with his criticism of the lynchings down in Mississippi. So people in New York, who was Morris and Rose Mitchum, saw this. Well, Rose threw some stuff together, and she made this bear and put it in her storefront, because they owned a little penny candy store. So a lot of people came into the store that day and wanted to buy that bear. So as things went on, they actually wrote to the White House, which he changed the name of the executive mansion to the White House. It was one of the other things that TR did. And they sent this letter and asked, and TR didn't think anything of it and said, sure, you can call it whatever you want. So they called it Teddy's Bear. And as things went on, the Mitchums became rich off of this teddy bear. Of course, now everybody seems to make it, but that's all how it all started with the teddy bear. And one of the original teddy bears is in the Smithsonian Institute down in the Presidential Gallery at the National Museum of American History. And of course, now his last words that he spoke before he passed away from an embolism was, James, put out the light. So when we close here tonight, we'll tell Larry to put out the light.
I think it's time to take a break.
All right, we'll take a quick break, and we'll out in the mics. We'll be right back.
At the Historic Smithton Inn of Ephrata, Pennsylvania, we're pleased to serve the latest creations from Weathered Vineyard Winery, along with spirits from Thistlefinch Distillery in Lancaster, all to be experienced in the tasting room of a beautifully restored 18th century bed and breakfast. Cigars by D&S Cigar are available for your enjoyment in the courtyard. The Historic Smithton Inn is convenient to Lancaster County's most interesting attractions, just minutes from the Ephrata Cloister and the Green Dragon Farmers Market, and a short drive can get you to charming Lidditz, thriving downtown Lancaster, as well as Hershey, Bird in Hand, and Intercourse, or Valley Forge and Gettysburg. Whether you're looking for a romantic getaway or an active vacation full of sightseeing and attractions, the Historic Smithton Inn will be a welcoming oasis from everyday life, one that you'll want to visit again and again. Stop in and visit at 900 West Main Street in Ephrata, Pennsylvania, or check out our website at historicsmithtoninn.com, or simply call us at 717-733-6094. Just ask for Past Master Dave.
And welcome back. And again, we're with our guest tonight, Ted Wallace, who is also a very active reenactor of President Teddy Roosevelt. One of the things we like to do, Ted, is we talk a little bit about your participation in Freemasonry, which we talked a little bit about that, but also the jobs that our brothers hold are interesting to find out what you do and how that relates to the craft and how you work the craft around that. So tell us a little bit about what you do.
Well, I am a technician for tactical public safety out of West Berlin, New Jersey. I maintain 911 communication systems from New York to Norfolk and from Atlantic City to Western Maryland. I'm a retired assistant chief from Cecil County in Maryland, where I maintained their radio system for 30 years. So I got into it, and I'm not one that likes to get into things in small pieces. Like when I joined the fire company when I was 20-something, I was at it full bore. And then as I got older and got into other things, and the fire department kind of went by the wayside a little bit. But I'm still involved in public safety. So I have been since I got out of the Navy back in '86, and so that's pretty much what
Did you do communications in the Navy as well?
Well, yes and no. I was a high-level technician at Patuxent River, Maryland, where I maintained. I was an Airedale, so I worked in the AIMD, which is Aircraft Intermediate Maintenance Division. So I didn't do public safety, but I did electronics.
Pax River was one of the places I put on my wanted to serve duty at when I was in the Navy, and never ever got there. Bastard sent me over to Morocco instead. Sorry about that.
And I guess, Ted, you and I worked at the same place for this, but not at the same time. We both at some time worked for Chester County's Department of Emergency Services.
Yeah, when I got out of the Navy, I was a dispatcher, telecommunicator.
What was your telecommunicator number?
42.
I'm 167, so at least I'm pretty close. They're up in the 9,000 numbers now, but so you've stuck with it. How do you work your Masonic schedule around your travel?
It's tough. I drive 71 miles from my home to work. That's if I go to the office one way. Luckily, they provide the vehicle, but I do what I can, and I've gotten into some things where you just have to prioritize. So Blue Lodge is always first. Then Scottish Rite, because I'm high priest this year for the Valley of Reading for the Sovereign Prince line. And then Tall Cedars, where I help with the convention, and Wildwood. I didn't get a chance to make too many of the meetings there, so I made a little change there, which Pete knows about. I'm also in the Shrine, Raja Shrine, and I just got I call it the Red Lodge. Was it? I got Mark Mason.
Yeah, York Rite.
York Rite, yeah.
Royal Arch.
Royal Arch. So I got all that. Just did it, and like you, I went through it all. But it's so much. It's like going through your first 3 degrees. Mm-hmm. And how many of you remember going through your first degree and you're like, "Well, that was pretty neat," but what did I just learn? Right,
but in the Blue Lodge, especially if you sit later as an officer, you see 1,000 first degrees, 1,000 fellow craft. So even if you are a little slow in the head, you get it.
Yeah. Repetition.
But when you go through your York Rite degrees like I did 21 years ago, and then not seeing one again for 17 years, it's tough.
I enjoyed them. I remember watching them. It's just like going through. The first degree I ever saw in Scottish Rite was a 20th degree. Of course, you see your 4th, but the first one I ever saw was the 20th, and that was performed at Coatesville Brandywine Goddard Lodge. And that was a hook, because the guys from Reading came down, and it was like, no way. And of course, now that I've gotten into the Hot Scrolls, you get a chance to actually see, and you're like, oh, that wasn't real? And the way they did it, it just seems so real and authentic. But as you learn, it was based on factual participants, but it was a fictional story to show the Masonic, the Masonic.
And they did that right inside the Blue Lodge.
Yes, it was awesome.
Yeah, that's one of the things that, for some of the larger valleys like Reading, I get it. You need to do it on the stage, but. Some of these smaller valleys, I just kind of wish they would do some of that degree in the Blue Lodge rooms. I just think it would be way more intimate.
And some of the degrees are like that. I think it would be so much nicer if like the 19th degree, where the audience is supposed to be a participant, but we don't have any input. But if it was up close and personal, I think it would be so much.
Very cool.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things that fascinated me when you and I work on the stage crew, I don't know.
No, Larry, Teddy works on the stage crew. You just are there.
I'm the mascot. I'm sorry.
I used to work on the stage crew, but now Scott will tell you I'm probably off gallivanting and shaking hands, glad hand, and all that stuff. He said, you don't do any work anymore.
But you were talking to me about the fact that you're doing a paper for Hot Scroll.
Yes.
and a very extensive research paper on President Teddy Roosevelt, but his Masonic affiliation. And you're going back and looking at letters and going through documents that most people will never ever see to get the kind of information that you can write a good thesis up on this. So you're doing a very extensive search. So I would hope that when you do it and you submit the paper after it's approved, we get the chance to see it, because you're going to be looking at things that a lot of people don't see.
Are you going up to the presidential library, or where are you going to get access?
Well, a lot for some Masonic stuff, I've getting ready to submit a letter. I've got it all typed up. I just got to go through the district deputy, who goes through the secretary, and then they go through the secretary of New York, and New York down to the lodge. You still have to get Masonic
Follow the
information. You still
protocols.
have to follow that protocol.
Yeah.
Like, we had Brother Yasser on the show a couple months ago, and I was asking him questions about all these world famous men that were Masons, and I said, we don't really have that today. He goes, well, don't think these guys that were famous people that were Masons really weren't that super active Masons. Some of the now Truman was.
Mm-hmm.
Truman
was
was
a past grandmaster.
But the majority of presidents and I guess Buchanan was too, because he didn't really focus on being president much. He just he wasn't a very good president, but he's an okay grandmaster. But yeah, most of the guys that are famous, really, they're almost like they want to be a Mason, but they just don't have the time to
dues paying Masons, card carriers,
which we need too.
We call them contributors, donors.
Absolutely.
And they too could be Patreons.
They could. Absolutely, they could. For $1 a month.
$1 a month.
How easy is that?
It's so easy.
Segue.
So are you ready to retire again soon, or you've got another? How much longer are you going to be working?
God, I hope so. I don't know. I'll work till here's my Patreon.
Oh, very nice.
Boom. Yeah, that's once a month, Ted, by the way.
I know. That's one time.
We'll sign you up for the $1, so that'll give you 20 months.
Yeah.
We'll put a yellow sticky on the wall. Thank you very much.
You're the $1 a month. You're our next $1 a month. That's cool. Thank you, Ted. You didn't need to do that, but thank you.
Well, I did. That's what Masons do, right?
Exactly. So if you want to come on our show and be a guest, and you want to throw money on the table,
bam,
we can make that happen.
Make you sound interesting.
Yes.
Well, I am looking forward to when you publish that, because I think it's going to be fantastic.
Well, would you like to proofread it when I get it?
I would love to.
Okay.
Absolutely, please. Yes. Yes.
Ask Carol.
Wait a minute. Do I have to have exclusively pictures?
Are you going to have it printed in 36 font?
Yeah, I will read the proof, but if you really want it proofed, I would have to ask Carol to do that, because she's the editor and proofreader. Yeah.
She's got what is not the Chicago something dictionary or something.
I have that at home in the bookshelf.
Well, yeah, but aren't you the editor in chief of the Cedar Knot?
I am what's called the what is my title? I guess the Cedar Knot editor. But yeah, I'm not a proofreader, but I'm in charge of what goes in there.
Thank God for spell check. Is that what you're telling us?
Spell check, and thank God for Cliff Fromm fixing most of my errors as it gets to the printer. Well, let's take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to wrap up with Brother Teddy and do the news, hear from Michelle Snyder, and all kinds of other good stuff.
Unlocking Symbols with Symbologist Michelle Snyder.
Magic Wands Unlocked. Magic wands are devices that we see in the hands of fairies and magicians. To find their secret, we will travel way, way back in time to a long ago place where there was almost always winter. As we search for the root of the magic wand, we find ourselves in the Stone Age, at the time of great stone megalith observatories. For tens of thousands of years, astronomical patterns had been observed and related to natural events on Earth, seasons, floods, migration patterns, droughts, etc. Records were kept, marked on stone, bone, and ivory, and passed on through the generations. These records created agricultural and hunting calendrics, and later provided navigational information. Great stone structures were erected, and this information was inscribed on them. These observatories are found around the globe and form an intercontinental utility for indicating time and season, and for measuring distance. Movement of the stars and planets was measured using poles. Swings of a pendulum were counted as a marker star moved from one pole to the next. These measurements were applied to the geometric blueprint being laid out on the ground with stakes and string, creating the fundamental design of the observatory. Enormous stones were quarried and dragged across miles of ice and put in place. Megaliths took generations to build. But what about the magic wands, you ask? A megalith started with a pole for measuring, a surveyor's tool. Other poles were set into the ground at specific distances, and geometric calculations were done to assure that the arrangement of the stones and their interaction with the stars, planets, sun, and moon would be accurate for the location. Megaliths are very large structures, some spread over great distances. To see the pole from yards and yards away, a reflective ball, likely made of polished obsidian, was attached to the top. It reflected the sun and could be seen from any direction at a great distance. But what about at night? An oil lamp or torch was attached to the top of the pole. Not everyone knew the secret of the heavens or how to use the tools to measure the patterns above. Only the most excellent minds could calculate the information necessary to construct an observatory. And so, over time, those who could became wizards, and the Asherah pole, with the shiny balls and fiery lamps atop, evolved into the magic wand we know today, sometimes with a star on top, or energy discharging from its tip. For more pieces of your golden key, read Symbology Revision and visit my blog. Next time, we will uncover the real story of Rapunzel.
If you'd like to take a deeper look, be sure to check out Michelle's book, Symbology Revision. A link for purchase can be found on the Freya Foundation website. That's freafoundation.net. While you're there, take a look at some of Michelle's other works and find out more about the Freya Foundation and its mission to research and publish the Ensman archives.
Good news, everyone!
Masonic Lite News. News not fit to print.
In Masonic news today, the offices of Demolay International announced today that despite the fact that he once appeared on the Masonic Lite podcast, Pennsylvania Demolay and Masonic brother Tyler Moyer, yes, yet another Moyer, has been elected International Master Counselor of Demolay International. Brother Moyer is the first Pennsylvania Demolay to hold this esteemed office, and we know he will do us proud. Congratulations, Tyler. You may now officially add travel expenses to your FAFSA application forms. That's the Masonic news. So mote it was.
Hey, congratulations,
that
Tyler.
was actually
Congratulations,
good. Yeah,
Tyler.
that
And
was
it's good to have
actually good.
Walter back on the news.
Yeah, he's he's a great kid. He was really, he actually carried that show that we had him on. None of us know what the heck
None
we're
of
doing.
us, yeah, really. All right. Well, we want to thank our special guest this evening, Brother Ted Wallace, coming here as Brother Teddy Roosevelt.
Are you still on 60 Minutes, by the way? Is that a thing? Oh, different Wallace. Sorry.
Different Wallace. That's Mike Wallace. I think he retired.
Got it.
Marley Safer?
Maurice Safer, yeah. I don't know. I think they're all gone.
Maria Shriver.
I think it's only one.
Skeletor.
There you go. So,
He-Man's adversary.
Yes.
Oh!
All right. So let's talk about what's coming up in the near future. Why don't we start with Jack? What do you got coming up?
Lodge in the Woods. Go on Eventbrite. Buy your ticket. Do it now.
What's the date?
It is September 18th.
Oh.
It is a Wednesday. It is good food and great Masonic fellowship.
I can tell you right now, this steak is going to be better than our Williamsport steak.
That will not be hard.
That was a rubber steak.
Because this steak is made with actual cow.
Well, I think this one was too at one point. But
no, up there it's part wood.
Perhaps. All right, Brother Ted, what have you got coming up in the near future?
A couple things. Well, first, I got to give a shout out to little Mr. Mark, who was the ambassador for Tall Cedars.
Did he have the surgery today?
He had a surgery today, and according to Glenn Henry on his Facebook post, everything's went well, and he told his mom that he's got this under control.
So for everybody that's not in the Tall Cedar world, Mark was our ambassador 2 years ago, and great little kid, and I guess was it Duchenne's or what kind of muscular? I'm not sure which flavor.
Had back surgery or something.
But I was getting his back fused or straightened, something.
His spine straightened, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, we're just, wishing him well. He's a great little kid.
Yes, he is. He was a blast. I call him Mr. Karaoke because when we were down there for the convention, he'd jump up there, and he's not shy, buddy. He let her belt. Also, I got the 5th District Summer School of Instruction at Thompson Lodge, which is oh yeah.
Is that for the bad kids?
That is. We got Larry Buzzard coming in.
Is Mark?
Yes. Fingers, yes. So and it's actually for the region, for the first region. So, and then I got to run the 5th District Masonic Picnic, which is August 17th. I believe it's a Saturday starting at noon. And
where does that take place?
We do that at Hibernia Park at Pavilion Number 4. So it poured last year because it was on a Sunday. But
can we crash?
Absolutely.
It's Chester County Park, so I'm guessing no adult beverages
that we know.
There's a long pause. Okay. Everybody, you can't see the air quotes. No alcoholic beverages.
No alcoholic beverages. So that, and then we got district visitation in September, but that's pretty much it.
Anything else with the Valley of Reading for not really for the summer?
Not really for the summer. I think we've got some picnics coming up, but I'll let somebody else handle that.
Larry, how about you?
Other than Goose and Gridiron, not really. Although I will say that we will have Goose and Gridiron on July the 4th. Be a special kind of a celebration breakfast that we will be having. More to follow on
Freedom Fries.
Freedom Fries, absolutely. All right. Yep, definitely. But that's it, really. Okay. Slow summer.
So it is a slow summer. All right, Pete?
Let's see. In a couple weeks, I'll be hosting my 3rd of 4 AMD meetings as Sovereign Master of Junto Council AMD.
Yes.
We'll be branching out, going to
this Sunday, right?
Yeah, be going to a different restaurant. We're going to Harvest, in the shops at Belmont. I just feel it's weird when I forget because even though I'm 50 and I'm disabled, I'm way more spry than 90% of our members. And we've been having a lot of meetings in the city, and it's just really hard for some of these guys to park and to get to some of these venues. So I just wanted to pick a place that had street level parking lot, and just and their food's really good, and they have a very excellent bar. Let's see, so that's coming up. It's summer for Tall Cedars, which means it is picnic season. So we just had the one family picnic at my house. July, we're doing the ladies' night and the white elephant sale. I think there are horrible two things to combine. It just sounds inappropriate, but it's always a good time. And we give out our scholarship awards. We're giving out $400 or $500 scholarships to young people. So that's kind of it.
It's mandatory that it has to occur on the hottest night of the week.
Yes.
Or month.
But you can. The Grand Smoke is always there, smoking a cigar at a table all by himself. So
that's great. Josh, how about you?
I don't have anything coming up before next show. So
okay.
Yeah.
Edit like mad.
Lamberton's not doing anything.
Of course not.
Well,
I'll be doing stuff. I have some committee of inquiries to schedule, but other than that, no.
Okay. All right. Well, as several of you mentioned, it is the summertime, and a lot of lodges are called off from labor. And exactly. On August the 3rd is the 3rd District picnic and barbecue cook-off. There's a competition that goes on there. You can go to the District 3 website, and if you're interested in participating in that, it's in Newville, Pennsylvania, at the lodge there. On Jack mentioned on the 18th of September is Lodge in the Woods. On the 25th is the 3rd District Low Vale. That's an annual event that we do this year. It is going to be at the Mason-Dixon Boy Scout Camp in Fort Littleton, Pennsylvania. And if you don't know where that is, well, the chickens are coming quickly.
Wow.
Wow.
Is this like the Academy Awards now?
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't even realize we were that far, and it was just
that's kind of like to the hook.
Lined up.
Yeah, that's like, okay, I got to hurry up and get through this. Fort Littleton, Pennsylvania is exit 180 off the Pennsylvania Turnpike for easy access. So just to throw some dates out there. And then, of course, for everyone in Pennsylvania, don't forget Autumn Days on Saturday the 21st.
Here, a quick trivia question. See how long Ted's been out of the Chester County Dispatch game. What mile marker is the Peter J. Camille Service Plaza?
Don't know, don't care.
332 eastbound or something? Something like that. I don't know. It just seemed like every shift I worked, somebody was having a heart attack there.
Oh, my. All right. Well, that about wraps it up for here. It's time to cue the chickens. Larry, why don't you take us home?
Yeah, here we go. Special thanks to Ephrata Lodge 665 for allowing us to continue to broadcast from the downstairs. Also, to our news director, Jack Hartley, welcome back. It's always good to have you here, buddy. And to our producer, Josh Lamberton. I will never give his real name out because he doesn't want that notoriety. Also, to our Director of Employee Loyalty Program, Upton left us. Our Director of Ethics and Honesty, you lion sack. And our Director of Positive Reinforcement, a curt nod. That's all I have, guys. I worked hard at this afternoon, and I didn't get any response. It's the last damn time I'm doing this.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. No, not really.
Say goodnight, Gracie.
Good night, folks. Good. Thanks for listening.
Brother Mel Blanc.
I'm stunned.
Yeah.
Good night, everybody.
Say goodnight, stunned.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, everybody. I worked hard on them damn things.